Let's go over these very quickly. Number one place where Terran lives is Cauldron. Number two is Call, son of Call Frewer, if you want to be all exact. Number three is Gwydion, Gwyddion. Number four is Eilonwy, Eilonwy. Number five, Fluder Flam, Fflewddur, Fflam. Number seven, Achren, however it's pronounced, Achren. Number eight, Gurgi, Gurgi. Number nine, lost my place, Aran, Arawn. And number 10, he wants to go home. That's it. Okay, as I said, no quiz today. Don't need this anymore. So, let's jump into Black Cauldron. I can't remember. I'm getting all my classes mixed up. Did I ask you to try to come up with some questions?
I think so.
You're saying, I think so, and other faces are going, no, you didn't. I don't know. Did anybody come up with any questions, or does anybody have any questions before we start? Let's look at the author's note first. Anybody else? I burn up all day. So I'm going to turn this into the fridge. Don't know that we'll do anything, but the second paragraph. Although an imaginary world, Cauldron is essentially not too different from our real one. How so? Well, the remainder of that sentence. Where humor and heartbreak, joy and sadness are closely interwoven. The choices and decisions that face the frequently baffled assistant pigkeeper are no easier than the ones we ourselves must make. Even in a fantasy realm, growing up is accomplished not without cost. Okay? By telling us that in that author's note, Alexander's kind of telling us what the theme of this novel is. But it's not just this novel. That's a central theme for the entire series. He starts out somewhere between 12 and 15, and he ends up several years later. And it's all about that process. Okay? So we begin, as they all begin at Cauldron. They all begin at home. Why? Because they're all about Terran leaving from that place and going off, doing things, and in the process of doing things, learning some things about himself. Okay? So, we find out, what's he doing as the novel opens? He's not making horseshoes, notice. But he is still having to deal with the pig. He is assistant pig keeper. Okay? For Terran, the summer, I'm skipping the first paragraph. The summer was ending before it had begun. That morning, now notice, Terran's experience of summer, you got to put yourself into the mind of the story. Terran's experience of summer is probably radically different than every individual in this room's. Why so?
We think summer, no school. He thinks summer, more work on the farm.
Summer for most of us, for all Americans at least, unless you're homeschooled, okay, or non-schooled, as many families are doing today, it's the period in between 9 months of enforced education. Terran doesn't go off to school anywhere. So summer is just what? It's just another season of work. It's just a different kind of work. Different kind of work in the summer than he'd have in the spring, than he would have in the fall, etc. But we're told it's like it zoomed past very quickly. That morning, told to wash the pig, Had the old enchanter ordered him to capture a full-grown Gwythaint, Taran would gladly have set out after one of the vicious winged creatures. Why? He's bored. He's tired of doing blank around the farm. As it was, he filled the bucket at the well and trudged reluctantly to Hen Wind's enclosure. And there's the white pig, and now she's rolling in the mud. She apparently doesn't want. And a guy rides up. Tawny hair, deep black eyes, set in a pale, arrogant face. Excellent quality, the clothes he's wearing, but they're worn. Okay? He sits astride his horse, etc., and he just shouts out, "Pig boy, is this Cauldron?" The horseman's tone and bearing nettled Taran, but he curbed his temper, bowed courteously, it is. "I'm Taran, assistant pig keeper." Pig's a pig, pig boy's a pig. Notice Taran, "I'm not a pig keeper. I am Taran, pig boy. I am Taran, assistant pig keeper. If you're going to talk to me, use my proper name and address, title of address." He says, "It's a pig. You're a boy. Run and tell your master I am here. Tell him that Prince Eladir, son of Pin Larku," okay, and the pig starts rolling. Okay, Taran's already doused it once. He's trying to get the blankety blank pig clean, and he keeps rolling in mud. So he stops listening to this guy on horse and starts talking to the pig. "Leave that. Did you not hear me? Do as I say. Be quick about it. Tell Dalbin yourself, or wait until I'm done with my own work." Okay, now we can spend some time, we won't, but we could spend some time talking about both of these individuals' need for some training in interpersonal communication. How could Eladir have approached Taran differently? He could have been polite. Okay? Rather than just doing what? He issued a command, right? Is Taran under his authority? No. Is he Taran's boss? No. What could Taran also have done? He could have shot him a bird, but he didn't. Notice Taran curbed, we're told, his temper, but then he kind of lets loose. "Mind your impudence, you shall have a good beating for it." And then Taran's like, "All right, buddy." He gets out of the pen, climbs over. "If I do, it will not be bad. It will not be at your hands." What is that? Try. That's a challenge. Okay? I don't know if you've ever gone up to somebody when you're on foot and they're on horseback. Who's got the advantage there? Always. It could be a midget on horseback. They're going to have the advantage, okay? Maybe not strength-wise, but they're commanding the horse. Horse outstrengths a human any day, okay? Unless it's putting his saddles and you're out of his carrots, if you're familiar with that little scene. So, what does Eladir do? He charges Taran, so Taran gets knocked off balance. Notice, he doesn't literally run into him. He doesn't have the horse knock him down. But he acts like he's going to. Taran's thrown back, because he doesn't want to get headbutted by a horse. And Eladir reaches down and grabs him by the front of his shirt and picks him up. And then rides, we're told, pummeled and shaken until his teeth rattled. Eladir then urged the roan into a gallop, hauled Taran across the turf to the cottage, and there tossed him to the ground. Now we're told Taran at this point has grown some more. We were told in the previous book he was fair size and strong. Now he's even stronger. And this guy on horseback picks him up off the ground with one hand. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking Terrence minimum 100 pounds. He's probably more like 140, maybe 150. Eleator picks him up with one hand and holds him off the ground while he gallops, because in order to get to a gallop, that's more than here to that wall. Gallop implies you got to get some speed. Okay? So Eleanor's pretty strong. Terran gets off lightly in this case. Okay? Dalbin comes out, essentially puts Eleadir in his place. Says, I know who you are. I'm too busy to be concerned. Go water your horse, your temper. You'll be called when you're wanted. So what has Dalbin just done? Okay. You want to talk power relationships? Because Eleadir's like, I'm a prince and you're a big boy. I've got power, you don't. Dalbin just said, go sit in the corner and wait until you're called. Until you were called. Until you were summoned. He essentially does what? A modern disciplining, parenting, teachering technique to calm down unruly students. You're in timeout. Eleadir is about to reply, but the enchanter's stern glance made him hold his tongue. In other words, you don't want to anger an enchanter because he can, do things to you. So, Eilonwy and Call show up, and Call just kind of laughs at him. You should know better by now. Eilonwy, especially if they're on horseback and you're not. Okay? Skip a little bit. So, Eilonwy and Terran go off, and she starts cleaning him up. Okay? Gurgi jumps in. Gurgi mentions Gwydion. Gwydion shows up. Okay? And bottom of page 8, top of page 9, Gwydion says, let's see, and you, assistant pig keeper, a little the worse for wear. Dalbin has mentioned how you came by those bruises. Terran, I sought no quarrel. I didn't start it. That's what he means. Terran, Gwydion, but one found you nonetheless. Why is that significant? Because it is significant. It tells us something about Terran's character.
It's like when you have the parent, if you used to get in trouble a lot in school and then you try to tell them, but she was pitting you but somehow you're always in the midst of it. That's what my mom used to say.
Terran was me in 5th grade. And 4th, and 3rd, and 5th, and 6th. I always got in trouble for talking. I was sometimes the one talking. I wasn't always the one, but I was always the one who got caught. A friend and I'd be the one responding when the teacher would sing. But he usually started it, kind of a thing. That's Terran's problem. But one found you nonetheless. I think that must be the way of it with you, Terran of Caer Dalbin. What's he mean? You're going to have a life of what? Troubles. Quarrels. Not because he seeks them. It's something about him. He just finds himself in them. Okay? So, he says, let me look at you. You've grown. Hope you've gained wisdom along with that weight and such. Gwydion mentions there's going to be a council. Terran's like, I should be in the council. I won't. Kind of showing, he's not old enough. Gwydion says, don't worry, you're going to be, bottom of page 9. Though manhood, notice he says this softly with a trace of sadness. Softly, because he's not emphasizing it. He's kind of muttering it to himself. Manhood may not be all that you believe. It may not be all that it's cracked up to be. Manhood, he just means being a fully grown, mature adult male. Meanwhile, stand ready. Okay? Skip a bit. Fluter shows up. Dolly shows up. We're bringing the band back. It's everybody that was together at the end of the previous book. Okay? somebody new shows up. So now we've got two new people. We have Eladir, Prince of Pinlarku, which we have no idea what Pinlarku means, where it is, etc. We'll hear later. And then we get, bottom of page 11, Adaon. So, Eladir, Adaon comes in, and we get introduced to Adaon, and Fluter says he's the son of the chief bard Taliesin. Taliesin, according to Welsh thought, was real. He was a real bard. He was the real leader of the bards in, 5th century, 4th century Wales, something like that. Okay? Real character. But he also figures hugely in all Welsh mythology. He's like the ideal when it comes to a bard. Okay? And he says, Fluter does, Caradolban is indeed honored today. Like, it's not honored just by having Gwydion, son of the High King there. It's not honored by having this prince, whoever he is, because we don't know anything else about him. No. By having this guy, Fluter says, you guys have just raised your game really, really big. Okay? So we get a description of Adaon. Tall, straight black hair, noble bearing. Define noble bearing.
Carries himself well.
Okay, define that. How does he carry himself well?
I would think proper posture.
He stands up straight, shoulders back. What else?
Well groomed.
Well groomed. Not a slob. Okay. He doesn't slouch. But noble... Louder?
Good etiquette.
Good etiquette. Noble bearing also implies there's something else about him that you can't put your finger on. And you just go, that guy has it. That guy over there doesn't. Adaon has it. Eladir doesn't. Notice we're not told anything about noble bearing with Eladir. Right? So, he wears the garb of an ordinary warrior, so it's not that he's dressed to the nines. It's not that he has the finest, up-to-date warrior outfit, so to speak. He's got a brooch at his collar. Eyes are gray, strangely deep, clear as a flame. And Terence sensed little was hidden from Adaon's thoughtful and searching glance. What does that mean? Little was hidden from his glance. When he looks around the room, he sees everything. He is like a well-trained CIA operative. If you ever watched any movies about, spies and such, if you see the part where they go through their training, well, what's one of the things they're taught to do? To not only, for example, a guy comes, walks in here, stays in here for a couple minutes, walks over here, gives like a 2-minute presentation. By the time that person walks back out, he has, or she has, visually imprinted every one of your faces on their brains. So that if they see you again, or they see your picture again, they'll recognize it. They will know how many people were in this room and where each one was sitting. They'll notice little things, like if somebody is writing with their right hand, or with their left hand, or which hand they wear their watch on. Because usually people wear their watch on their non-dominant hand. Little things like that, okay? That's what Adaon kind of does. He takes everything in. So, notice, he comes up to Terran. Well met, Terran of Caradolban, and Dooley of the Fair Folk. Your names are not unknown among the bards of the north. Terran's got to be going, huh? What do you mean our names are not unknown? Why doesn't he just say, we know your names? Because by putting it in the negative, your names are not unknown, he's emphasizing, ooh, we've heard stories about you guys. Terran, then you're a bard? And he bows. Many times my father has asked me to present my... He's not a bard. He hasn't passed the bard exam. Okay? So he turns to Fluter, says, Daddy sends greetings to you, etc. He wants to know, how's the harp doing? The one he gave you. Little bit of, additional information because Fluter told us what in the previous book about the harp. What do the strings do when he embellishes a little? Bing! And then Gwydion gives him the one string at the end of the previous book that will never break. Okay? So now Adion says, Father wants to know, how's the present doing? I can see it wants repair. That is, he looks at it, he's already noticed it, and there's, curled up strings. I have, trouble every now and then. And this is the result. Be of good cheer, your gallant tales are worth all the harp strings in Prydain. Your gallant tales. Those aren't the gallant tales that Fluter has written or composed and sung. What's he saying? Tales of your exploits. Tales of what you guys have done are worth more than all the harp strings in Prydain. By saying they're worth more than all the harp strings, they're worth more than all the harps Prydain could produce. We've got more songs than we can sing about. It's kind of what he's implying. It's not what it literally means, but it's the implication. You go, oh, and you too, Taran and Dolly, was promised to tell me more of your famous deeds. Taran's sitting there thinking, I'm a pig farmer. This is the son of the greatest bard who ever lived. And he's talking about my famous deeds. Taran's going, famous deeds? What have I done? I lost Hinwin. Had to go after him. Jumped in the rose bushes to save... That wasn't an enemy, that was Gertie. What else did I do? I tried to take the sword. Got knocked out. So, he leaves. Fluter looks after him with affectionate admiration and says, ooh, something big's at work if he's here. Taran, and our names are known and songs? After our battle with the Horned King, composed a little something. And you can imagine, if Fluter composed it, what did he say about Taran, the assistant pig keeper? Do you think he called him Taran, the assistant pig keeper, in his mighty song? No, it's probably Taran the mighty, Gwydion the great, Fluter the famous, So, let's see here. We have other people brought in. Bottom of page 13. King Morgant of Madoc, Eladier, Prince of Pinmark, something like that. Madoc is an old Welsh name. Okay, so we have Morgant. He owes allegiance to the House of Dawn. He saved Gwydion's life once. Oh, there's also King Smoit. Sorry. And you can hear him laughing. From Cantor of Cataphor. Let's see here. Skipping in a bunch. Look at the interaction between Morgan and Smoit on page 14. Smoit stops in the middle of the chamber, throws back his cloak, hooks his thumbs into the enormous bronze belt, which strained to bursting about his middle. In other words, he's fat. Okay? And roars, hello, Morgan. So they've called you in, have they? I smell bloodletting in the wind. Morgan, have a care. With a lean smile that showed only the tips of his teeth, that will not be yours. Okay, so describe Smoit. Which of these two do you want at a party? Yeah, man, you want Smoit. He's going to be the life of the party, probably. Morgant's going to be the one who's going to stab you in the back to take something. That's the implication. Okay? Smoit, he's kind of like Santa Claus in armor. Okay? So, page 15. Smoit looks at Terran. And he says, what's this? Skinned rabbit, plucked chicken? Fluter says, or is it Adeo? Can't see which. Says Terran, Dolvin's assistant pig keeper. Smoit, notice he's hungry. I wish you were his cook, etc., etc. So, down at the bottom of page 15, the council begins. And Dolvin explains why they're having it. Aran, Lord of Anuvan, suffered great defeat when the Horn King was slain. For a time, the power of the land of death was checked, but in Prydain, evil is never distant. Okay. He says, I'd hope there'd be more time, but obviously there's not. Gwydion stands up, talks about the Cauldron born. Okay. Who has not heard of the Cauldron born, the mute and deathless warriors who serve the Lord of Anuvan? These are the stolen bodies of the slain, steeped in Aran's cauldron to give them life again. They emerge implacable as death itself, etc., etc. Okay. Old Welsh myth. A cauldron that confers immortality. You go in and you come out immortal. Okay? What Alexander does is he changes it just ever so slightly. If you go in living, you come out zombie-like. Your soul is gone, essentially. Okay? If you're throwing in a corpse, you come out zombie-like. You're still dead, but you're an animated dead. So they talk about that. And Smoit says, are we to fear those cauldron slaves? Gwydion, there will be meat enough for you to chew on. I tell you now, none of us has ever sat on a more perilous task. I ask your help. I mean to attack Anuvan itself, to seize Aran's cauldron and destroy it. Okay. So this is why they have a council. Gwydion wants to attack hell. And he wants to take Satan's cauldron. That's kind of the our world analogy of it. They're kind of like, ooh, that's bigger than D-Day, you know? So, Terran starts, we're told, from his chair. Gwydion says there's no other way. Cauldron can't be slain, but if we get the cauldron, we can destroy it. And Aran can't make any more Cauldron board. Then Aran can be dealt with. Okay? So, he says, I'm here for your help. Smoit says, I'll stand with you. And all the others eventually do. Page 18. Gwydion tells Fluter, I chose you more for your sword than for your harp. Because Fluter's like, oh, that's why you want me. You want me to compose a song. You want me to sit there, watch everything, write it all down. He goes, no, not really. Why? Well, because he's a better swordsman than he is a composer, which is telling us something. Because how good a swordsman really is Fluter. Not that great. But he's courageous, so that counts for a lot. Okay? So they continue talking. Bottom of 19. We hear the plan. Okay? And before the bottom, Call stands up, says some things, because Call, remember, has been there. Call's been in Anuvan ages, however long ago it was, when he rescued Hinwin when Hinwin got lost before. So, bottom of 19, Gwydion says, it's a bold plan, but bold companions that can succeed. So, at Darkgate, we'll divide into 3 bands. That is, we're going to have a certain number of people, a certain size force, and we're going to divide that into 3s. The first shall include Dolly, Call, Fluter, and myself. So the first group, Dolly, Call, Fluter, and Gwydion. Okay? And he says, with us will be 6 of King Morgant's strongest and most valiant warriors, plus 6 warriors. Okay? Dolly, invisible. How do we know Dolly's going to be invisible? I mean, it didn't work in the first book.
What was his gift?
Gwydion gave him the gift. Whenever he wanted to be invisible, he can be invisible now. Kind of like Gwydion had an ulterior motive in giving him that gift. He will enter first to draw the bolts and to tell us how Iran's guards are posted. Notice, did he ask Dolly first? No, Dolly. You go in first and you unlock all the doors. Then we'll breach the portal and seize the cauldron. At the same time, on my signal, the second band, Morgant and his horsemen, will do what? They'll attack Dark Gate, seemingly in great strength. What's this called?
Diversion.
The diversionary tactic. They're going to draw all of Iran's forces to Dark Gate while the others are sneaking in through the back door. Okay? Morgant, I'm not quite sure about all this. So, page 20, the third band will await us near Dark Gate. Third band. That will be Adaon, Terran, Eladir, son of Penlarkow. That's not a very big band, right? I mean, 3 people. Eladir, why? Why am I held back? Well, am I no better than a pig boy? Notice what he's immediately thinking. Where's the glory? Where's the glory? Well, the glory is with those who get the cauldron. Secondarily, it's with those who lead the diversion. Because, this is going to be real fighting. They're waiting. He is untried, a green apple. He says that about Terran. What do we know about Eladir's background? How many battles has he fought? Has he fought the Horned King? Like Terran tried. Tried. He didn't successfully, but he tried. Terran, I have stood against the Cauldron born with Gwydion himself. Have you been better tried? Prince, Patch Cloak. Why? Because his cloak is all mended. He shouldn't have said that. Gwydion, says, in this venture, the courage of an assistant pig keeper weighs as much as that of a prince. I warn you, Eladir, curb your temper, lead this counsel. And you, he says to Terran, you've repaid anger with a childish insult. Another, you responded like a child. I expect better. Okay? So, they start leaving. Terran goes up to Eladir. For what purpose? Bury the hatchet? Apologize? Let's not say bury the hatchet. Apologize? He says, we can't be enemies. Speak for yourself. You don't want to be enemies with me, big boy. I have no wish to serve with an innocent pig boy. I'm a king's son. Whose son? Oh, there it is again. Whose son are you? Terran doesn't know. So you stood against the Cauldron born, and with Gwydion. You boast of your name, Terran says. I take pride in my comrades. It's really not the right answer. You boast of your name. He's inherited his name from his father. Okay? Prince, we kind of think means what? When we first hear it, son of a king. Which son of a king? He's not, yeah, exactly. We think this is the eldest son. He's going to be the king. Well, we're going to find out very shortly. He's the youngest of several sons, which means where is he in line of succession? Last. Last. Where is he in line of inheritance? Stuff. Last. That's why he wears patched, threadbare clothing. Okay? So Taryn says, you take pride in your name, I take pride in my comrades. What should he say? I don't have a name. I've got actions. I've got deeds. I've done something. Okay? Your friendship with Gwydion is no shield to me. Don't count on your friendship with Gwydion to stop me from killing you. That's what he's saying. Let him favor you all he chooses. Hear me well, in my company you will take it. Notice, in my company. Now, he might mean that in the sense of when you're in my presence, around me, nearby, like back in the corner and I'm up here. But my company can also mean what?
Like the band of people.
That I am in charge of. Okay? Adion comes up. And notice what Adion tries to do. Now, he should be giving seminars in interpersonal communication. Friends, come on. The battle's against Iran. We should be nice to each other. We hold each other's lives in our open hands, not in clenched fists. Taryn, Eladir, open your hand. Now just imagine Taryn's life is here. Okay, what would Eladir do? Smack it. Taryn bows. Eladir, walks out. Dalbin, you are an excellent pair of hotheads. I've been trying to decide which of you is the more muddled. I'll have to think about it. Taryn, Eladir spoke the truth. Yeah.
What does muddled mean?
Pardon?
What does muddled mean?
Confused. Okay. So, Taryn, whose son am I? He knows who his father is. He knows who his father is. He probably knew who his father was, as did Smoit. Fluter knows who his father is. Somebody tell me, who am I? Taryn wants to know. I have no name but the one you gave me. What's the one he gave him? Taryn. What's his last name? Of Cair Dalbin. It's like Ted of Murfreesboro. No, I don't want that to be my last name. That's kind of... Taryn of pig keeping fame. Ooh. Dalbin, prince he may be, yet perhaps not so fortunate as you. I imagine that takes Taryn a while to think about. Wait, he's a prince, but I'm more fortunate? Fortunate means you got the better roll of the dice of life. You got the better dealt hand of cards in life. Taryn's thinking, I'm poor and I wash pigs. He's a prince. In what world do I come out better in this? He's the youngest son of old Pinlark, who in the northern lands, his elder brothers have inherited what little there was of family fortune, and even that is gone. Eladir has only his name and his sword. I admit he uses them both with something less than wisdom. Okay, so let's, play devil's advocate. Why does Eladir use them both with something less than wisdom? Why does Eladir act the way he does?
Attention.
Attention, possibly.
Insecurity.
Insecurity. He is the youngest of several brothers, and they inherited everything. He got nothing. So he's a prince, yeah. But what does he have to do? Can he go back to the northern kingdom? No, he can't. He's got to, just like Taryn does, he's got to find his way. He's got to make his name mean something. Dalbin. However, these things have a way of righting themselves. In other words, it'll all work out in the end. Okay? So, bottom of 22, top of 23, Dalbin gives Taryn a sword. And Taryn leaps for joy. Finally, I get a sword. Okay? It's old. Its metal shone clear and untarnished. Okay? And Terran asks, what are its powers? He's thinking, enchanter. He kind of brooded over this sword and put spells in it or something. Powers? It's a bit of metal hammered into a rather unattractive shape. It could better have been a pruning hook or a plow iron. Which prophet was it? I can't remember. Daniel, Ezekiel talks about, turning swords into plowshares. Notice, it could have better been a pruning hook or a plow iron. Its powers, like all weapons, only those held by him who wields it. Its powers are what? Whatever you got, kid. Okay. So, Dalvin says, I don't want to see any of you before you leave, so just leave. Terran says goodbye to Ilanwi. And he has her strap the sword on him. Okay. And they set out for Ilanwi. Okay, chapter 3, Adion. We're going to move a little more quickly now. So they make their way, and Eladir, page 26, tells Terran, stay away from my horse, Islimak. She bites. We are much alike, so stay away from me too. I bite. Okay? And Adion says to Eladir, you are right, son of Pinlarku. Top of 27. Your horse carries a difficult burden, and so do you. Your horse carries a difficult burden. Well, what does this horse carry?
Yeah.
Eladir, you're a burden. But you're also carrying a burden. What's Adion's point?
It's basically trying to fight for honor and all this stuff, just like Aaron is weighing down on him.
Okay. But what's he saying about Eladir? What's your problem? What's your problem? What is the burden Eladir is bearing? Eladir asks, what burden do I carry? And Adion says, I had a dream last night. I saw you with a black beast on your shoulders. Beware, Eladir, lest it swallow you up. What is that black beast? We don't know yet. I think we come to find out by the end of the novel. Okay? Eladir, oh, great. Now I'm with a pig keeper and a dreamer. Two words kind of, where's a warrior? I need to be with a warrior. Karen, did you dream about me? Yep, you were filled with grief. What cause have I to grieve? I'm proud to serve Lord Gwydion, and I can win honor. Better than washing pigs and weeding gardens. Notice, I can win honor, which he says is better than washing pigs and weeding gardens. Well, how's he talking about winning honor? Through battle, through the nice big shiny sword that Dalvin just gave him. So, keep going, through battle, doing what?
Fighting.
Keep going.
Finishing the quest.
Before that.
Killing.
It's killing. He's going to win honor by killing others. The enemy or enemies. Okay? How do I know? Because what Adion says coming up. He says, Terran, again, I'm proud to serve Lord Gwydion, and there's a chance to win much honor, more than by washing pigs and weeding gardens. What's his implication? There is nothing honorable about this. There is no honor to be gained from washing a pig or weeding a garden. Adion, I have marched in many a battle host. We don't know how many, but many a means a lot. I've marched to war often. But I've also planted seeds and reaped the harvest with my own hands. And I have learned. Okay? I have learned implies, because of the verb tense, based on those two experiences, marching into many battles and planting seeds and harvesting with my own hands, I have learned there is greater honor in a field well plowed than in a field steeped in blood. Why? Why is there greater honor in a field well plowed than in one steeped in blood?
Because you can do more with a field that's been plowed than one that's been sowed.
Okay, keep going. You're almost there. That's like a 90 out of 100. Keep going. Get the next 10.
With the seeds that you plant yourself, there's more respect in it because you're doing it yourself. You're not killing anyone. You're doing.
Okay. You're producing what? Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm going to say like you're creating rather than destroying.
Bingo! You're bringing life where there was none. You plow a barren field, you plow it well, you plant it, and it brings forth life. What does that life then do?
Provides for your family.
It provides for others. It sustains others. It brings more life. But a field steeped in blood does what?
Dies.
It dies.
Oh,
It
one
does.
of those is a good fertilizer.
Not blood.
Well, we're going to see.
Bodies.
We're going to see in a later book. They don't come into it in this book. They're going to come into a territory where the ground is red. And it's because of past battles. And it's barren. And Call's going to say, I was here when it was green. My foot here. Some of that's my blood. And it's dead and barren because of the battles. Okay? Greater honor in a field well plowed than in a field steeped in blood. Notice, no other comment, nothing follows that. We're not told. And Taryn pondered that and thought, what the hell does he mean? He doesn't. Alexander just puts it in Adion's mouth and throws it out there. Why? Because this is going to sit in Taryn's mind like an infection. It's going to spread. So they keep marching. And as they march, they talk. And we're told, bottom of 27, Taryn soon realizes there was little Adion had not seen or done. Well, what's that mean? He'd sailed far beyond the Isle of Mona. You've got a map. Mona's off the coast, even to the northern sea. He'd worked at the potter's wheel. He cast nets with the fisherfolk. He wove cloth at the looms of the cottagers. And like Taryn, I never noticed this before. I've been teaching this book for 4 or 5 years now, at least once a year. And it never registered. And like Taryn, labored over the glowing forge. Taryn does every one of these things in subsequent books. Every one, except for sailing to the northern sea. That's offered, but he doesn't do it. He is going to work at a blacksmith. He is going to work at a loom. He is going to work at a potter's wheel. Okay? Of forest lore, he had studied deeply. Taryn listened in wonder as Adion told the ways and natures of woodland creatures. And Adion says, another little bit of what's called gnomic advice, or just simply wisdom. Gnomic doesn't mean like gnomes, like those little things you put in gardens. A gnome is a proverb. It's a proverbial saying. So, there is much to be known, and above all, much to be loved, be it the turn of the seasons or the shape of a river pebble. turn of the seasons. Like fall can't come soon enough, right? This blazing heat. Or the shape of a river pebble. Indeed, the more we find to love, the more we add to the measure of our hearts. So he's talking about multiple things there. There's much to be known. That is, to go out, to explore, to ask questions, to investigate. That's all part of the process of knowing, learning. He says, and above all, much to be loved. But what does he include in the above all, or the much? What's to be included in the things you can love? The change from one season to another. And a rock in a stream. Why would you love a rock in a stream? It's just a freaking rock. What's his point? Even that little rock, however, has what? It has innate, intrinsic beauty of its own. Its very being calls for a response on the part of those who see it. That's why he says, the more we find to love, and notice the more there isn't talking about people, it's talking about things. Plants, animals, stars, sun, moon, sky, leaves, etc. The more we find to love, the more we add to the measure of our hearts. The measure of our hearts, the ability to love. The more we love, the more we are able to love. Kind of like, let me use a pop culture reference. How many of you have seen or read, they're the same actually, it's one of the few things where the visual form is identical to the written form, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. What happens to the Grinch on Christmas Eve? He goes down to the little town of Whoville to do what? Stop Christmas. And so he goes through every Who's house and steals everything. He steals the trees, he steals the presents, he steals the meat, the dinners, decorations, whole 9 yards. He and his little dog Max, they load up the sleigh, they go up to the top of, what is it, Mount Crumpet or something like that, and they look down on Whoville. And the sun rises, and the Who's come out, and what do they start to do?
Sing.
They start to sing. Why? It's Christmas. And he's thinking, what the hell? They have no gifts. They have no ornaments. They have no stockings. They have no food.
They have each other.
But he doesn't put two and two together. He's like, maybe Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe it doesn't come from a gift. Maybe it doesn't come. Maybe Christmas is just a little bit more. And what happens? What does the narrator say? Anybody remember?
Heart grew 3 sizes.
The Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day. That is, he perceived love. And because he perceived love, his ability to love did what? And we get shown it visually. He's sitting there looking down, and we see his heart, right here. And it's got a little box around it. And then it grows, and it bursts outside, and grows again, and grows again. Okay? Adion's face was bright in the early rays of the sun. When he says this, but a trace of longing can come into his voice. Why is it significant that the sun is shining on his face? Have you ever been up early enough in the morning with somebody else and seen the sun shine on somebody's face? Because it's not like if you put a flashlight on them. It's a totally different kind of light. It's very similar to if you've been with somebody, let's say, at the beach, West Coast, and the sun sets. And you look at that person as the sun sets and they get that last bit of light. It's a different kind of glow than any of this god-awful lighting could ever produce. His face is kind of glowing. And what do we find out? Does he want to go? Does he want to do this? No. Why?
He wants to be with his
He wants to be with his fiancée, who lives up north. I hate these names. Arianlin, my betrothed, waits for me in the northern domains. Soon as this cauldron's over, man, I'm back. Okay? So, they keep going. Fluter plays the harp, Adion sings, etc., etc. Eladir, snaps at Terran, tells him his place is at the rear. Page 30. Terran just can't keep his mouth shut and tells him, your place is where you earn it. Okay. They jostle. Terran almost falls off the edge. Adion dismounts. Eladir too dismounts. And what are we told? Eladir, with all his strength, little by little, raised Melinlas, which is what? A horse. Until the stallion was able to clamber from the edge. So what's this tell us about Eladir? Just that he's strong. That's putting it mildly. This guy is insanely strong. So when he picked up Terran with one hand, that was nothing. Okay? Eladir, I did not mean for you to fall. Top of 31. That wasn't my intention. And then he catches himself. He threw back his head with a mocking smile. My concern's for your steed, not your skin. Adion, I admire your strength, man. But is it to your shame you proved it thus? The black beast rides in the saddle with you. Notice it doesn't ride on you. Now it's with you. Okay? Word is brought to Gwydion. What's going on? Gwydion's like, really, guys? Come on. I'm going to send you back home and put you in timeout if you don't stop it. Okay? So skip a bit. They talk about the Cauldron born and go on to 34 and 35. Okay? They're getting ready for the three groups to divide. And 35, after Morgant talks to Terran. And what does Morgant say to him? Bottom of 34. I'd like to have you in my troop. I'd like to have you ride with my men. It would have done me honor to count you among my men. Gwydion's told me a little of you. I've seen you for myself. I'm a warrior. I recognize good metal. What's he doing there?
Buttering him up.
Setting the seed.
Setting a seed. Planting a seed. You could be great. Okay? So, Terran pleads with Gwydion. Let me go with you. Gwydion, do you love danger so much? Before you are a man, you will learn to hate it. Yes, and fear it too, even as I do. Keep a bold heart. Okay? So, they split up. And Terran says again, just on the last page of that chapter, I wish Gwydion had let me go with him. Or with Morgant. Why? I wish Gwydion had let me march into hell. Or I wish Gwydion had let me go and be with those who are going to beat on the gates of hell. I want to be in the forefront of the action. Terran, Adion, do not wish that. Why? I would have been proud. He is brave and powerful, Adion says, but I am uneasy for him. Who's he talking about? Morgant, not Gwydion. And Adion says, something about him doesn't sit right. In my dream the night before we left, warriors made a slow circle around him, and Morgant's sword was broken and weeping blood. Okay, that's an image of death. When your warriors ride around you, they are singing a funeral dirge. That is Welsh practice, Anglo-Saxon, Germanic practice. As far as we know, it is a practice of what were called the Indo-European peoples in about 5000 BC. The group of people that all the people who today speak Indo-European languages, Russian, Indian, not Native American, Pakistani, Afghani, etc., Greek, Italian, all the English languages, all the Germanic languages, French, all those languages came from this one group of people, and they had these kinds of burial practices. Okay? So this is the old practice. Taryn, well, maybe there's no meaning in it. That is, maybe your dream doesn't mean anything. Does it always happen what you dream? There is truth in all things if you understand them well. In other words, Adion doesn't say all my dreams are perfectly, fully lived out the way I saw them. But he does say there is a truth in all of them. Would you dream about the others? Call or Dolly. Oh, what was your dream about yourself? And Adion doesn't reply. In the shadow of the dark gate. Okay? What happens? Notice, they're waiting. What are they waiting for? They're waiting for this group to come back with the cauldron. Who shows up? Not this group. Another group. Stop it. Gergi and Ilanwi show up. Well, they're not supposed to be there. They're supposed to be safe back in Kirgalvin. Okay? So they show up, etc. And then Fluter and Gwydion show up. And what are we told? Cauldron's not there. Last they knew it was there, so something happened. Chapter 5, Huntsman of Anuvan. We're going to skip a bunch. In fact, we're going to skip that entire chapter. Go on to Gwistel, chapter 6. Who's Gwistel? You're smiling. Why? You like him. Why?
He's just like, he's melodramatic.
Okay, he's melodramatic. What does that mean?
He's very, depressed, and you guys are going to get in trouble and not me. You guys are just asking for it kind of thing.
He's kind of like two other characters in popular culture. One from C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia that you might be familiar with, and another one that none of you will be familiar with because it's from a TV show, cartoon TV show from the, how old is this? Show my age. Late 60s, early 70s. And the one from C.S. Lewis is the character of Puddleglum in not Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Silver Chair, okay? Who never looks on the bright side of things. It's always, it'll never work. The other one is a character named Glum, who always says, it'll never work. And he was from the TV cartoon series of Jonathan Swift. Satire. Not Modest Proposal, Giant. Lilliput. Gulliver's Travels. There was actually a cartoon series based on Gulliver's Travels, and one of the people that went with him was this character named Glum. And he always said, it'll never work, in that tone of voice and everything. Okay? Is Gwistel really like this, however?
No.
Okay, why not?
Later on it tells you.
Okay, keep going.
He wants people to underestimate him.
Why?
Because he's so close to Anuvin's castle?
Idolites. Well, yeah, he's the last waypost before Anuvan, but he's also there as kind of the
First defense.
Yeah,
For us.
for the fair folk. Okay? Why else is he that way? I mean, if a normal person were to come up to him and he were to be as negative as he is, what would you tend to do?
Turn away.
Yeah, I'm going to leave now because if he says there's no way you can succeed,
You're gonna die.
okay? So if people take him at his word, what does that do for him? Okay? What kind of advantage does it give him? Or what does it not, I don't want to put this without giving it away. What does it free him from?
trouble.
Bingo. He doesn't have to get involved, in other words. But because Dolly is there, and Dolly knows who he is, and finally realizes who he is, he's like, oh no, this is just how he is. This is how he shoos people away. Okay? So, skipping a bit. Let's see here. They talk about the crow, caw, and it's the next chapter. It's not a crow, though. What is it?
Is it working?
It's which Gwithate? Caw is which one? It's the little wounded fledgling that Taryn saved. Okay. It becomes caw, right?
I don't remember when it broke.
Yeah, when did it say that?
Let's see here.
Hashtag spoiler.
Oh, take that back. Take that back. Sorry, I was misreading. You know, I already, had one discovery teaching this thing 5 years, so I thought, no, it is a crow. It reminds him of that Gwithate. Sorry, that's because I get these books all mixed up, and I'm thinking the last book where that Gwithate comes in. I won't say anything else. The one that he saved.
In the last book?
In the last book. Okay. So, they talk about the cauldron, and what's his name? Crystal says, yeah, I know that it's not there. Okay. Page 63, because I'm skipping a bit. Page 63, next chapter, which is just time to call. The crow is with them, and we hear it go, Ordu, Arvin, Argok. And probably every now and then, and our longing says he wants to tell us something. Okay? Bottom of that page, 63, Gwistel explains what it is that Caw is saying. The cauldron is in the hands of Ordu, Orwin, and Orgok. That's all. It's a shame. There's certainly nothing to be done about it. Hardly seemed worth mentioning. Who are Ordu, Orwin, and Orgok? He was sorely tempted to aid Dolly in squeezing Gwistel. Gwistel, who are they? You had better ask, what are they? Okay, what are they? I don't know. So, get the right question. He gets the right question. I don't know. Well, whatever they are, let's find them, take the cauldron. Where do they live? They don't live. What's he mean they don't live? They merely are. Okay? Not exactly. It's all really vague. I don't really know. Caw. Morva! Morva! Oh, that's right. Marshes of Morva. That's where they live. Okay? Adion. I've heard of that. They lie west of here, don't they? Uh-huh. Okay. Page 65. Fluter starts to talk. I know where it is. Good day's journey, I should say. Came upon them once during my wanderings. Undaunted, I strode through, bing, which immediately tells everybody, okay, he lied. We don't know where he lied. Probably the last statement. Undaunted, I went around them. The marshes, that is. Dreadful, smelly, etc., etc. Okay. So they keep talking, and Andrew's like, Gwydion ordered us to meet him at Caer Cadairn. And you guys are talking about going after the cauldron. Okay? But you don't know where, you haven't found it, you don't have it. Fluter, but we know where it is. Arlani, second place. If you have news about it, we should tell Gwydion. After all, who thought up all this? Gwydion. He should be the one to find it, etc. Okay? So, Taryn says, it may be wiser that we return to Gwydion. King Morgan and his warriors can lend us their strength. He spoke these words with some effort. This is page 66. In the back of his mind, he yearned to find the cauldron, to bring it in triumph to Gwydion. What does that mean, to bring it in triumph?
To kind of show him, hey, I got it for you. Kind of thing. Honor.
He wants honor. He wants the honor and glory. Okay? So, he starts to say, it seems to me then, and Eladier says, Pig boy, you've chosen well, return with your friends, let's part, etc. Eladier, I'm going to go get the cauldron, you go back to your master. And Eilonwy just lets them have it. You know, this is not a game of courage. I would be twice a fool, and so should we all, to be goaded by an idle taunt. This much at least, this is Terran after Eilonwy shrieks. This much at least I've learned from Gwydion, but there is also this. Iran seeks the cauldron even now. We do not dare lose the time, blah, 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 blah. So they keep talking back and forth. Okay? And Terran says, I will go to the marshes of Morva. But what do they realize shortly before that has happened? Where's Eladier?
No.
While they talk, slips out the back door. Stone in the shoe. Actually, that comes a little bit later. So, page 71. Terran says, bottom of 70. Terran says, as they're writing, talking about Eladier, I think he really would have tried to bring back the cauldron by himself. And you know how much chance he would have had alone. That's the kind of childish thing I'd have done when I was an assistant pig keeper. Past tense. What do you mean? What do you mean was an assistant pig keeper? He still is. Which Eilonwy points out. You're going to these silly swamps because of Eladier. In other words, you're still doing childish things. And anything else you say is pure nonsense. Adion, middle of 71, is troubled. He's like, I don't know, maybe we should turn back. I fear you have kept something from me. Had I known what it was, I would have chosen otherwise. If Adion shared Terran's doubts, he showed no sign. In the saddle, he rode unbowed. On his face was a look Terran had never seen before. Pride, yeah, but more than that. A light, almost joyous. And Adion says, there is a destiny laid on us to do what we must do, though it is not always given to us to see it. Terran, I think you see a lot of things that you don't let on. And now more than ever, the dream. You saw Elder, Morgan. You said I would grieve. What did you dream of yourself? You want to know what I dreamt? I saw myself in a glade, an opening in a forest. And the winter lay all around. It was warm and sunlit. Birds called, flowers sprang up from bare stones. Eilonwy, wow, that's pretty. What's it mean? Terran, yeah, it is. Adion doesn't say anything else. Okay? Well, Eladier's horse Islamak starts to go lame. He warns Terran not to touch her, because again, she bites. And what are we told? Terran goes, lifts up her hoof, and finds a stone embedded. Page 74. This has happened even to Melimus. There's a place deep in the hoof. Anyone can miss it if they don't know. It was Call who showed me. You have tried to steal honor from me. Will you now rob me of my horse? And Terran's like, what the hell? He'd expected no thanks, but the angry thrust of Eladier's words took him back. Your honor is your own, and so is your steed. What stone is in your shoe? In other words, what's making you lame? Not physically, mentally, psychologically. Because Terran is saying, Eladier is psychologically damaged. What stone is causing that damage? Adion, top of 75. I commend your patience. The black beast spurs Eladier cruelly. Terran, I think you'll feel better once we find the cauldron. There will be glory enough for all to share. Is there not glory enough in living the days given to us? The days given to us. What does that imply?
Being alive.
Being alive?
Every day is a gift.
Every day is a gift because there will come a day when we won't be alive. Is there not glory enough in living the days given to us? You should know there is adventure in simply being among those we love and the things we love, and beauty too. But I don't want to talk about that now. Let's talk about something else. I've got a few things. Should something happen to me, I want you to have them. Luagor, his horse, my packets of healing herbs, and this. And he touches the clasp around his throat. The brooch I wear, precious gift from Arianlin, my betrothed. Should any ill befall me, they're yours. I've watched you, Taryn. I would rather entrust them to you. He goes, no. Nothing's going to happen to you. We're companions. We protect one another. Your friendship is gift enough. Nevertheless, we cannot know all the future holds. Will you accept them? Why is Adion pressing this? I mean, you know the answer if you've read the book. Because he knows he's about to die. So why is he really pressing it? He wants to be sure what happens to these things. That they're properly taken care of.
How long did he know that he was going to die?
When did he have his dream?
Well, don't you have to give it? It can't be taken off of the body. Or
Give what?
The
Yeah, it has to be
Yeah,
given.
he
It has to
gave
be.
his permission
It has to be.
beforehand.
Has to be. Okay. So, will you accept them? He nods. He goes, oh, good. Now I feel better. Okay. Eladir leaves. Middle of 76. Taryn sees alarm in Adion's face. Okay. I fear what might happen if the cauldron comes into his hands, he says. And then we see they get attacked by the huntsman. And Adion says, we can't outrun them. This time we have to turn and fight. We have to turn and face them. Okay? And they do. Page 78, bottom of the page. Taryn froze with horror. In front of him, he saw the snarling face with its crimson brand. This is one of the enemies. The arm uplifted to throw the blade. Suddenly, Luagor was between him and the huntsman. So, here's Taryn. There's the huntsman. The guy raises his arm to throw his blade, his knife, and Adion's horse cuts between them. Adion rose in the saddle, swept down with the sword. As the huntsman toppled, the knife flew glittering through the air. Adion gasped, dropped his weapon, slumped over Luagor's mane, clutching the dagger in his breast. Taryn helps him to the ground and such when they finally get to safety. Pages 80 and following. The wind howled above the trees, but this sheltered spot, by contrast, seemed warm. Driven clouds broke away. The sun broke through. The branches in the clearing are kind of like touched with gold. Adion raises himself and goes, it's a good place to die. It's his dream. Yes, I shall rest here. Taryn, we'll heal your wound. He goes, no, I won't. The pain is gone, and it is pleasant here, as warm as spring. Why has the pain gone? Because death is creeping. Jack London, late 19th, early 20th century author, American socialist author, wrote a short story about the Yukon, because he spent a lot of time up in Alaska and the Yukon during the gold rush of the 90s. And the short story was called To Build a Fire. And it's about two guys, two prospectors. And they're together and they're heading back. I think it's either to a cabin or they're going to meet up in a nearby town or something. But one's going to go one direction, the other one's going to take a shortcut. Okay? And so the one guy leaves and the other guy goes off on his shortcut. It's him I don't think he has a horse, just him and his dog, sled dog. So they start their way, and as they're going along, he comes over like a hillside, mountainside, a ridge, and starts to walk and loses his grip and slides. And slides out onto a stream, breaks through the ice, goes all the way under, and then comes back up. So he goes underwater, comes all the way back up. Okay, it's dead of winter. We're talking northern Canada. Okay, he comes back up, and he knows immediately what he has to do. What's he have to do?
Build a fire.
He's got to build a fire. Why? Because he will die within minutes. Soaking wet, 0 degrees. Hypothermia kicks in very, very fast. So he sits there and he tries to build a fire. And he gets a little fire built at the foot of a tree. He scoops snow away, finds some dry twigs and stuff. But because the fire warms the air above it, and that warm air rises, and it rises to the bow, about 10 or 12 feet above him, and it slowly, but very effectively, warms the underside of that bow, which is holding snow. Poof. It puts the fire out. Now he can't build a fire because he has no more matches left. And he realizes, I can't remember the dog's name. Come here, Fido. He's got to do what Han Solo does in the one Star Wars for Luke with the big whatever the thing is. Okay? He's got to cut it open, the dog open, and wrap himself in the dog's fur. Okay? So, as he calls the dog, he notices he can't move very well. Why? His feet are already starting to freeze. Okay? And he very quickly can't move very much, so he just kind of lays there. And he calls the dog, and the dog stays just out of arm's reach, because the dog knows very well what this guy is thinking. And we get a description of his thoughts, and there's a wonderful film version of this done. I think it was in the early 70s. It might be on YouTube. And it captures the guy lying there, and like Avion, he just kind of suddenly feels a peace. He doesn't feel the burning if you've ever had frostbite. He doesn't feel the burning. He feels the burning that goes to numbness, that goes to nothing. And that nothing just gradually rises up. That's where Avion is. He's like, oh, this is nice. And Taryn's like, no, it's not. This is what you dreamed. Yep. You knew. You knew there would be peril for you. What's his point? Why didn't you turn back? Why did you not speak of it before? I would never have sought the marshes. We could have turned back. True. That's why I dared not speak. You would have turned back. That's why I didn't speak. What's he mean? Why does he say that?
Doesn't want to alter fate and mess up a bunch of crap.
Does he know that it's fate? He's okay about dying. Yeah, he's got a fiancée in the north. He's going to lose her. More importantly, she's going to lose him. Yeah, it's okay. What's he saying? It's important that you do this, Darren. That is why I dared not speak. I've yearned to be again at the side of my beloved Erin. My thoughts are with her now, but had I chosen to return, I would ever wonder whether my choice was made through wisdom or following the wishes of my own heart. If I had turned around, if I had said, no, I'm not going with you, would that be because of wisdom, or would that because I want to see my girlfriend again? I see this is as it must be, and the destiny laid upon me. Not you, Taryn, me. This is my destiny. I'm content. You saved my life. You will not use. Notice, Taryn's having trouble with this. Why? It's those that are left behind that have to deal with the consequences, right? Those who die, what are their consequences? Here. There aren't any. And he takes the clasp off and puts it in Taryn's hands. Take this. It's a small thing, more valuable than you know. I can't. It's the gift of a dying man, but you're going to live. He goes, take it. Not a command, it's a wish. And he dies. Okay? So, Taryn has strange dreams. He puts it on. He sees the mournful faces of his companions, the calm face of Adion. He sees Eladir, seized by a black beast. He saw a turbulent stream with a great boulder. He's thinking, how in the world are we going to get this Cauldron? Bottom 83. And there's no telling what Eladir has in mind. Ilanwi says, if you hadn't made him jealous, Taryn, I feel pity for Eladir. Has he felt pity for him before? He has one time. When he takes the stone out of the horse's hoof and says, what pebble is in your shoe? He doesn't say, I feel pity. That's his way of expressing that.
I thought it was an insult.
No, it's not an insult. Is it an insult to the horse that the horse has a pebble in its hoof? Horse can't help it.
It's what's bothering you, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not an insult. If someone asks you, what's bothering you? I guess maybe the intonation may change the meaning of it, but usually it means what? How can I help? Okay? That's the import of Taryn's statement. So he says, I feel pity for Eladir. Adion once told me he saw a black beast on Eladir's shoulders. Now I understand a little what he meant. Ilanwi, well, that's surprising. Kind-hearted of you to help Islamok. I'm glad you did. I know you meant well, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, as they make their way along the trail, page 84, what's Taryn suddenly start to be aware of?
Smells.
Louder?
Smells.
Okay.
Smells.
Smells, sights, sounds. He can hear the water a distance away. He's aware of ants laboring in their ant holes. He feels the wind. He knows when things are going to happen. Bottom of 86. Taryn says, this is not my doing. Adion spoke the truth. His gift is a precious one. And he tells Ilanwi about the clasp. He says, it's this thing. Don't you see? I dreamed about Fluter's harp, and we found Fluter. It wasn't all my own idea to go looking for a stream. It just came to me. I knew we would find it. Just now, I saw the bird. That was in my dream. And then there was another one, a terrible one. Wolves. That's going to happen too. Adion's dreams were always true. She goes, come on, it's not because of that piece of glass or piece of iron. He said, no. What I believe is that Adion understood these things anyway. That is, Adion was different than the rest of us. But with his clasp, there is much I do not understand. All I know is that I feel differently somehow. I can see things I never saw before or smell or taste them. Okay? They go through the marshes of Morva. Fluter talks about the clasp, says it's a bardic symbol. Okay. Skip a bunch. And they get to the other side of the marshes and they find a rackety, run-down old cottage, a shack. And they go and they wipe the dust off, and they look inside. Bottom of 94. In one corner stands a loom with a good many threads straggling down. Work on the frame, less than half finished, so tangled and knotted, you can imagine no one ever continuing it. There's also broken crockery on one table. Okay. And broken weapons. on another. This isn't broken. The weaving on it is unfinished. These are broken. Broken implies what about them?
They have no use.
They have no use anymore. Okay? So, they hear a voice. How would you like it if you were turned into a toad? Terrence spins around, and who do we see? Who do we meet? Put it that way. We meet Ordu, Orwin, and Orgok. Notice the or on all of them. Not sure what it means. Okay. Oracle could be. And they have a long talk with all of them, and I'm skipping a bunch. Taryn mentions his name at the end of the chapter. Says he's assistant pig keeper of Care Dalbin. And they say, Dalbin, tell me, how is dear little Dalbin? How old was Dalbin at the beginning? How old was Dalbin when we were told in the previous book? 379, I believe. They call him little Dalbin. I don't think little means size-wise. I think, oh, look at the little baby. That kind of little Dalbin. Okay? Terrence's jaws dropped because, like, if Dalbin heard him call him. So, they continue talking. And they talked about the choice they gave Dalbin, what he could have, harp, sword, book of 3. Had he chosen the harp, he'd be the greatest bard. If he chose the sword, he'd be the greatest warrior. But he chose the book of 3, so he became a great enchanter. Page 107. They talk about Iran coming. He also had to have a choice. One day you'll understand why. There is a destiny laid on everything. Big ugly crokins, that's the black cauldron, as well as poor little ducklings. So destiny laid even on us. In any case, the crokin was not to be his forever. So he swore to return it after a time. He never did, so they took it. They got it back. Okay? So, skip some more. Go into chapter 13. What do they decide to try to do?
Steal it.
They're going to steal it. They look in the other room, the other shack, and there's the black cauldron. They figure, well, we'll just go steal it. But they can't. Okay? Page, what page is that? 116. They look again in the cottage, and Arlanwi's amazed. Terran's amazed, sorry. And he says, they aren't the same ones. He sees 3 different people. If you don't believe me, go and look for yourself. One of them was carding wool, one of them was spinning, and one was weaving. So one is carding wool, one is spinning that wool, and one is weaving. Okay, so what do you do when you card wool? You have wool from a sheep. Carding it is you have a comb-like thing, and you stretch it out. You break it down into its fibers, and you get any impurities and grime, dirt, leaves, and stuff out of it. Okay, so you do that, and you end up with finer strands of wool. That then goes to the spinner, who takes that wool and it gets spun into thread. The threads then go to the loom, where they are turned into fabric. Who are these 3 ladies?
Are they like weaving a tapestry of fate or examining?
Oh, you're really close.
They're the orcs.
They're the fates. They're the fates. Pretty much, The idea of the fates, these three beings, is Indo-European. You see it in Greek literature, you see it in Germanic literature, you see it in Celtic literature. In Germanic literature, they're the Norns, N-O-R-N-S. Okay?
Are they the ones that share an eye in, I think it's Greek mythology?
No, they don't share an eye, but what they do, hold on, I'm going to give you their names because I had to write it down one year because I kept forgetting. Their names in Greek mythology are Clotho, who's the spinner, Lachesis, who's the measurer. Their jobs are a little bit different than these, and Atropo, the cutter. So, Clotho in Greek mythology, Clotho weaves the thread of your life. Lachesis measures that thread. For some people it's 90, for some people it's 9 days. And then, in between. And Atropo, she's the one who cuts it. It's from Atropo. Atropo is related to the word atrophy, like can happen to a muscle when it wastes away. Yes?
How come they changed from old hags to different ones?
We're going to get to that. Okay? So they first appear as these old hags. Now, how are they described?
Beautiful.
They're gorgeous. They're swimsuit models, essentially. Weaving, spinning and stuff. So, Eilonwy, they're beautiful. I've heard of hags trying to disguise themselves as beautiful maidens, says Fluter. I've never heard of beautiful maidens wanting to disguise themselves as hags. It isn't natural. Why would you do that? Taryn, I don't know who they are, but I fear they are more powerful than we could even guess. What did Gwistel say when Taryn asked, who are they? What are they is what you should be asking. What are they? I don't know. Gwistel replies. Okay. So, the price. Ordu says, top of 120, you tricked us. Of course we did. We could have stolen the cauldron. And I'll try again as long as I live. Okay. And they say that you are, Taryn says you're evil. And they say we're not evil. Bottom of 120. Bless your little thumping hearts, we aren't evil. Fluter, I wouldn't call this good. Well, we're neither good nor evil. Fate, the fates are amoral. Morality doesn't figure into it at all. We are simply interested in things as they are. That is kind of a definition, a modern English definition of the Greek notion of fate. Things as they are. What I used to tell my students when I taught Old English and Beowulf and stuff like that a good definition of fate is what will be, period. If what will be, then you can't change that, right? Because no matter what you do, you will enable what will be to be. And things as they are at the moment seem to be, you're caught by the croaking. I love it. You don't care. Well, certainly we care. It's just we don't care quite the same way that you care. Okay? So, they say, okay, so we've agreed, we've talked it over. You can have the black cauldron. It's yours. And they're like, thank you. You'll let us take it. Great. Well, it's useless except for making the cauldron board. That's all the thing is good for. Arana spoiled it for anything else. So, we don't want more cauldron board. So you're giving us we don't give anything. Only what is worth earning is worth having. But you can buy it. Taryn, we don't have any treasures. Well, we don't expect you to pay what Aran did. So, come on, you guys have something. Surely there's something. Okay. So, Ordu says, give me the north wind in a bag. He's like, what? Okay, we won't be doing Southwind. We'll make it to. It's beyond what any of us can pay. Well, okay, so maybe you're right. I tell you, here's what you can do. Give us the nicest, it's bottom of 122. Give us the nicest summer day you can remember. Okay, so just take a while. Think about that. You can't say that's hard. It belongs to you. Oh, yeah, that'd be nice. A lovely summer afternoon full of sunlight and sleepy scents. Nothing so sweet. Taryn, how can I give you that? Or any other day when they're inside of me somewhere. You can't get them out. I mean, ooh, we could try. Well, that's scary. Okay. You've heard ours. Give us some ideas. Taryn, you can have my sword. Dalvin gave it to me. I love this sword. It's my favorite sword. I would gladly give you this. No, we got lots of swords, right? All kinds of broken weapons. No. Taryn, Luagor, Adion's horse. She's a noble animal. Or my horse. A colt of Gwydion's own steed, man. Horses? No, don't need any horses. Gotta feed them, care for them, clean up. His face paled as he thought of Adion's brooch. And his hand goes to it. Gurgi, no, master, take Gurgi's own great treasure. And what's Gurgi offer? His gift from Gwydion. The wallet, the inexhaustible wallet. The wallet that always has food in it. No, not that. Gurgi. But it is all poor Gurgi has to give. When Gurgi says, it's all I have to give, what does Gurgi say? I'm giving you everything. Okay? So he sacrifices everything. Not his life. They say, nope, not good enough. Arlanvi, you gotta like jewelry. Why? They're women. And we know in their other manifestation, they're drop dead gorgeous women, you know. So she does what? She pulls off the ring that she was given. Gwydion gave it to me. They say that's lovely, but no, you know, you might need that one day. Arlana goes, you know, I do have something else. And she reaches in and she pulls out her glass bauble. Okay, this thing is very important for the next book. You find out it's not just a glass marble, essentially. Here, it's much better than just a light. You see things differently in it, clearer somehow. And they're like, no, we don't really need that. Fluter pulls off his harp. I'll give this to you. Given to him by Taliesin. He says it almost plays itself. You go, that is nice. Nope. You sure you don't have anything else? Because time's running out here. All right, we'll keep the Cochrane croaking. Taryn, wait. Ilanri catches his arm. Why? He goes to reach it. It's like she's going, no, you can't. There is one more thing. The brooch I wear, the gift of Adiel, son of Taliesin. Brooch? Well, what brooch? You should have mentioned it earlier. You've been toying with us. You knew about it all along. Doesn't matter. It's still your choice whether you will bargain with it. Yes, we know the brooch well. Minwi, son of Tergor, whatever, first of the bards, fashioned it. Taryn, you could have taken it. Do you not understand? Page 127. Like knowledge, truth, and loves themselves, the clasp must be given willingly or its power is broken. And it is indeed filled with power. This too you must understand. For Minwi the bard cast a mighty spell on it, filled it with dreams, wisdom, vision. With such a clasp, a duckling could win much glory and honor. So, just after Taryn says, I'll give you the clasp, they tell him what?
You can get honor.
With this thing, you can get a lot of glory and honor. Well, what do we know motivates Taryn from the beginning of the first book? glory and honor. He wants glory and honor more than anything else. He said, I'll give it to you. You sure? It'll bring you everything you want. Now that's dirty. That's just not nice on their part to tell him that just as he's about to hand it over. He might, in fact, rival all the heroes of Prydain, even Gwydion himself. Think. Cue the Jeopardy. Why? What by telling him that, what are they doing? They are lathering on the temptation. You sure you want to give that up? Just think what you can do with all that honor and glory. Well, who's with them right now? There's a certain cute little blonde, red strawberry blonde, named Eilonwy, who even Gwydion says at the beginning. And she's getting prettier by the day. And she's a princess. And he? Yeah, he's already got the hots for her, by the way. Marriage. Taryn, yes. This shall be my bargain. He holds it out. Urdu puts her hand out. He nearly cries. Done. The brooch for the croken. But what don't they tell him before the exchange is made? How you destroy it. Now they tell him. Okay? So, Taryn says, you should have told, Urdu says, you should have told us, my goslings, what you intended. You can't do that to the croken, you know. That is, you should have told us before you bargained for it you wanted to destroy it. You know you can't. You'll never destroy the croken. There's only one way. A living person must climb into it. When he does, the croken will shatter. Well, and the person inside too. So the person who climbs inside it must do what?
Go in willingly. No.
Go in willingly.
Knowing what is going to happen.
Knowing what's going to happen. Taryn sacrificed what? His greatest possession. The person who wants to destroy the croken, the black cauldron, must do what? Sacrifice him or herself. Okay? That's the way of it. Crow can only cost you a brooch, but it will cost a life to destroy it. Not only that, but whoever gives up his life to the croken must give it willingly, knowing full well what he does. In other words, you can't take somebody, knock them out, unconscious, throw them in. You can't take your enemy, in other words. Bind them, throw them in. You do that, what happens to the enemy? Cauldron born, zombie, you know. Okay. So, Fluter. Damn. So what are we going to do? Let's hide it. Let's bury it. Tear it. No, we can't. We've got to try and take it back. Okay. So, Eilonwy says, page 132, comes up to Taryn, she puts her hand on his shoulder. It says, I realize it's no consolation, but if you look at it one way, and you didn't give up a thing to the enchantresses, not really. You did exchange the clasp, everything that went with it. But all those things came from the clasp. They weren't inside of you. That is, all those things that came from it. Hearing and smelling the water, hearing the ants, understanding the language of, animals and such. She says, those didn't come from inside you. You didn't lose that. I think, she added, it would have been much worse giving up a summer day. That is, a memory. Why? That's part of you. I mean, I know I shouldn't want to give up a single one of mine, or even a winter day for that matter. So when you come right down to it, Urdu didn't take anything from you. Why, you're still yourself. You can't deny that. Taryn, yep, you're right. Now before we go on, what does Eilonwy mean by that? Why is she telling this to Taryn?
He's searching for himself.
Because he's searching for himself. Why else?
She wants to comfort him.
She's trying to console him. She is saying, you didn't give up anything of yourself. You are still entirely you, Taryn. And that's good. She likes Taryn. That's why she keeps praising him, even though she undercuts it for an assistant pig keeper. Why does she keep saying that? She doesn't know any other assistant pig keepers. Taryn, here's what she says and completely misses the point. Yes, I am still only an assistant pig keeper. That's what Taryn is. What does Taryn not realize he's just done in giving up the bridge? He's done one of the most noble acts in the entire book. He's given up what? By doing that.
Knowledge.
Knowledge, what else?
Honor.
And
Glory.
glory. He's given up everything he wants in the world. Now he has to get it how? The hard way. The daily slog kind of way. Ilani, that may be true. Taryn, I'm only an assistant pig keeper. I should have known anything else was too good to last. Who the hell was I thinking I could be? He's implying the class kind of made me like Adeon. Nope, just an assistant pig keeper. Ilani, that may be true. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was too good to last. But as far as being an assistant pig keeper, I think you're a perfectly marvelous one. Now, what should he think at this point? Thank you, Jesus. Believe me, there's no question in my mind you're the best assistant pig keeper in all Prydain. No undercutting, no little dig. How many others there are, I don't know. But that's beside the point. And I doubt a single one of them would have done what you did. Other assistant pig keepers, she's implying what? They say, oh no, you're not getting this thing. I'm not going to be an assistant pig keeper anymore. This will allow me to rise. In other words, oh, next time I meet Eladir, who has he got it coming? I could not have done otherwise. What does he mean I couldn't have done otherwise? It's almost like he's saying, I didn't really have a choice. He did. That's the point. He chose. Not if we were to gain the Cauldron. Taryn, Adeon knew there was a destiny laid on him, and he did not turn from it, though it cost him his life. Very well. If there is a destiny laid on me, I shall face it. I hope only that I may face it as well as Adeon did his. What does Taryn not understand? Okay, what else? Well, he does understand that because he buried him. He just did part of his destiny. He just did that honorable thing. He just did one of those things that will earn him glory. This is why Adeon gave it to him. He was the one worthy of it. Because only one who is willing to give it up for everybody else was worth it. Ilani, don't forget, no matter what else happens, you won the Cauldron for Gwydion and Dalvin and all of us. Notice, she doesn't say, we won the Cauldron. You did it, Taryn. And who did he do it for? Not like Aran did it. Aran did it for whom? Himself. Taryn did it. Taryn gave up the most valuable thing he had, not for himself, for others. Just like Adeon did. When Adeon said, I will go where you go, Taryn, even though he knew because of his dream, I'm riding to my death. That's one thing nobody can take away from you. Why, for that alone, you have every reason to be proud. Okay? So they go on. And the Black Cauldron gets stuck in the river. And we're going to skip a bunch. They see chapter 17. Eladir comes to their aid, so to speak. Bottom of 144 and 145. They talk about glory and all that kind of stuff. Eladir talks about how Terran has failed, and Terran's like, what do you mean I failed? There's the cauldron! Oh, okay, I don't have it in my hands right now, but there it is. Not failed. It's ours. And Eladir is surprised. You cheated me again, blah, 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 blah. And Eladir helps them get it out, but he helps them get it out only after what?
They promised to give him the glory.
How different is that from what Terran just did to get the cauldron? What would Eladir have done if he had the brooch? He would have kept it because it would have brought him everything he's missing in life. Okay? These are my conditions, page 147. Croken is mine. You shall be under my command. I found it, not the pig boy. I fought for it and won it. And that's what you'll tell Gwydion and everybody else. And you will swear a binding oath. Ilami. Nope, not going to happen. Terran, Adion saw a black beast on your shoulders, bottom of 147, and I too have seen it. I see it now. Shut up about my black beast. I care for my honor. Do you think I care nothing for mine? Look at the response. What is the honor of a pig boy? Where does Eladir think honor comes from? Your name and title. Your birth. Why? Because historically, that's been part of its definition. Historically, you were considered honorable what? If you were born into the right family. If you were
You were honorable blood.
blue blood, royalty, offshoot of royalty, a sir, a lady, etc. Pig boys can't become honorable. It's the whole point, if you've seen it before, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's the whole point of A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger.
Yes, that's a good one.
Based upon, loosely, Chaucer's A Knight's Tale. Okay? You have a kid, William Thatcher, who wants to be a knight, but he can't because he's a thatcher. He thatches roofs. So he gets sold to a knight by his father, because his father's poor. And he's hoping by selling him to this knight to be that knight's page, then squire, that the boy will ultimately become a knight. That he will be able to, as he puts it, change his stars. Well, he does, kind of, but only because the knight dies and he impersonates him. Cut to the end of the movie, he is praised by the King of England. Why? Because his men love him. And he says, you have shown more honor than others who are born honorable. So, what's the honor of a pig boy compared to the honor of a prince? Terran, I've paid for my honor more dearly than you would pay for yours. Do you ask me now to cast it away? You reproach me for seeking glory, yet you yourself cling to it with your dirty hands. Your pig, dirtied hands. Terran, if I swear this, he says to the others, you guys have got to also. It won't be any good if just I do. Fluter, I'll do what you want. Notice, who's the hardest one to get to accept it?
Ellen.
I'm hungry, man. She is spitting nails. She is so mad. Why? Because this is her Terran who's giving up this honor and glory. But they agree. Okay? So, he gets it. He leaves. Chapter 18. Page 154. Terran says, I fear the black beast, right in the middle, has swallowed him up as Adion warned. I pity Eladir from the bottom of my heart. Fluter, I'd pity him more if he hadn't tried to kill me. Terran, for long I hated him, but in the little while I bore Adion's brooch, I believe I saw him more clearly. His heart is unhappy and tormented. Nor shall I forget what he said to me, that I taunted him for seeking glory, yet clung to it myself with dirty hands. And he looks at his hands. Eilonwy, pay no heed to what Eladir says. After what he made us do, he has no right to blame anyone for anything. Terran, but he spoke the truth. He spoke the truth. Okay, so there's the question again. What's the black beast? What is eating away at Eladir?
Pride.
Pride? Could be. Eilonwy, did he? It was only too true. For his own honor, he would have slain us all. Bottom of 155. Terran's talking to them. And let's see here. He says to Fluter, you have all done, well, and the others, you have all done more than I could ever ask. Alas, much better than I. Yes, it would be useless now to seek Eladir, as useless as our quest has been. We forfeited all for nothing. Adion's brooch, our honor, now the Croken. Let's go back to Caradolban. It's not fitting for a pig boy to seek the same honor as a prince. And Eilonwy, she kind of verbally slaps him across the face. Pig boy, don't ever speak of yourself that way, Terran of Caradolban. No matter what has happened, you're not a pig boy. You're an assistant pig keeper. Like, that's one whole level above pig boy, you know. That's honor in itself. How so? What did Adion tell Terran about honor? There is more honor in a field well tilled than in a field steeped in blood. He's saying you can get honor and have hands that are stained with, stained with dirt, nails that are clogged with dirt. Why? How? What kind of work does that entail? Hard labor. Describe that hard labor, though. Put an adjective in front of that.
Beneficial.
Good. Hard labor. It's something you've done. Okay? Now we can extrapolate from that. It doesn't have to be maybe digging a field. What can it be? It can be anything that you do with your hands. A skilled craftsman. I tell, all my students, not everybody's meant for college. And you know what? An awful lot of people would make a hell of a lot more money if they went into a skilled trade. Like, I don't know, plumbing, welding. There are lots of welders who make 6 figures. That's in the hundreds of thousands. 6 figures. Okay? A lot of plumbers make $100,000 a year. That's more than I make. I've been doing this 27 years. Okay?
So is this concept like recurring? Because he said he becomes like a blacksmith and like works at a loom.
Yeah, it is recurring. It does, well, it becomes recurring. We'll talk about those when we get to that book. Because he tries different tests. Bear in mind, there aren't any quote unquote managerial, accounting, professional type jobs in this world. Okay? So everything's got to be essentially that. But what I think one of the points Alexander is getting across is every job can be honorable, can be meaningful if approached how? It's all up here. We're going to meet a character. I told myself driving in today I wasn't going to talk about this, and I am. We're going to meet a character in the 4th book called Terran Wanderer. And the guy's name is Lanio. And I went back and forth whether or not I'm going to post this, and I'm going to. And I'm going to post to you TV series my wife and I started watching the other day. It's some BBC thing, we're idiots. And it's called The Greatest Design or something like that. It's about these people who design houses, not architects. And we watched this one about this guy, and the show followed him for 10 years, starting in 2007. 3 little young girls, he and his wife, Herefordshire, England, and he starts building their house. He's already built the place they live now, which is like a house, but it's kind of run down, ramshackle. But he's building this big place. Takes him 10 years. And he's exactly like this character in the novel. He finds stuff and uses that in building his house. His house is almost entirely built out of recycled or found stuff. Okay? So I'm going to post a link to the episode of that. I think it's Netflix or something. Actually, no, I found it somewhere else. I'm going to post a link to that. If you want to watch it, because I think if you do watch it, you'll be amazed at the kind of work this guy does without any quote-unquote formal training. He has no formal design training. He has no formal training in woodworking and plastering, and what he produces is mind-boggling. It'll blow your mind when you see it at the end. Okay? The point is, anything you do can be honorable if it's done what? For the right reasons. If you're merely seeking honor, that's not the right reason. If you're merely seeking glory, that's not the right reason. Okay? Since you have a choice, take the proud one. So, back up. No matter what has happened, you're not a pig boy, you're an assistant pig keeper. That's honor in itself. Not that they don't mean the same thing. That is, pig boy, assistant pig keeper. She says, yeah, when you come right down to it, they do mean the same thing. But one is proud, assistant pig keeper, and the other isn't. You can choose which of the two you're going to be. She doesn't mean proud in the negative sense. She means it in the kind of honorable sense. So choose which one. Terrence says nothing. I completely forgot what comes next was here. Adion once told me, there is more honor in a field well plowed than a field steeped in blood. As he spoke, his heart seemed to lighten. I see now that what he said was true above all. I do not begrudge Eladir his prize. I don't begrudge Eladir. What's the prize? It's not the Black Cauldron.
The honor.
It's the honor and glory he will get from turning the Black Cauldron over. I too shall seek honor, but I shall seek it where I know it will be found. Where? Giving Hinwin her bath, feeding Hinwin, brushing the horse, digging the turnips. When he says, I will seek it there, what's he really saying? Honor can be found where? Where I live. It's not out there. Honor can be found literally, according to what he is saying. Right here. Doing your best. Be the best pig keeper you can possibly be. Be the best student you can possibly be. Be the best XYZ, whatever it is you do. Okay? So, they run into King Morgant. And Morgant says, we had word of you. Terrence says, we had to find the Black Cauldron, etc. Morgant says, I don't reproach your spirit. I told you, man, you would have been a good warrior. And then he says, when Eilonwy talks about Gwistel, all he wanted was to be let alone, hide in his burrow. Morgant says to her, page 158, you speak without knowledge, princess, and you don't know what you're talking about. Of all those who hold the waypost, Gwistel of the Furfolk is the shrewdest and the bravest. Did you believe King Idaleg would trust a lesser servant so close to a Nuven? If you misjudged him, it was his intention. He wanted you to think that of him. He goes on and talks about the Croken and says, Eladir has done a service. Eladir has brought it. We have it now. Talks about how Eladir found it and such, and Eilonwy's not true. He stole it from us. Terran won it. Terran says, promise is a promise. Morgan asks. Ilanwi spills the beans. Top of 159. Taryn paid for it, paid dearly. We carried it almost on our backs every step of the way from Morva until Ellider came along. He helped us. He did that just the way a robber helps you tidy up your chamber. Does she speak the truth? Taryn doesn't answer. Why?
Promise is a promise.
Promise is a promise. He made an oath. And Morgan says, I believe she does. Much of Elidir's tale, he said, didn't ring true. He says, I told you, Taryn, I'm a warrior. I know my men. But when you see Elidir, then I'll know. Okay? So, they get taken to Elidir, and what do they see?
Beaten and bound.
Beaten and bound up. Taryn, how is this? Page 160. Sire, your warriors had no right to use him so ill. Do you question my conduct? You have much to learn of obedience. And they get bound, and Taryn's like, what? What gives? Well, what's Taryn not remembering yet?
What Adion said about him.
Adion had misgivings about Morganth. So, bottom of 161, Taryn says, you're a traitor. Will you now be a murderer? We're under the protection of Gwydion. You will not escape his wrath. He says, I don't care about Gwydion. I've got the Cauldron. I can make Cauldron born. Gwydion can't do that. Taryn, you would not dare to use the Croken against your own kinsmen, your own people. Really? You think so? You have more lessons to learn than that of obedience. Page 162. Cauldron belongs to him who knows how to keep it and how to use it. It's a weapon ready for a hand. Notice, Cauldron belongs to what? The person who's strong enough to use it. I am. For years, Aran was master of the Cauldron. He lost it. Now I will be master. Taryn, what? You going to set yourself up as his rival? Rival? No. I'm going to overcome him. I know my worth, though I have chafed in the service of lesser men than I. Now I see the moment is ripe. There are few who understand the uses of power and who dare use it when it is offered them. And as I've been going through this tonight, I am convinced J.K. Rowling knows these books pretty well because she lifts pieces. She lifts pieces, ideas, images from them. There are few who understand the uses of power. At the end of the first Harry Potter book, Lord Voldemort, through Professor Quirrell, tells Harry, there is no such thing as good and evil. There is only power and those too weak to seek it. That's very similar, except for the part about good and evil. That's very similar to what Morgan has just said. Power such as this was offered once to Gwydion, Morgan went on. He refused it. Well, who offered that power to Gwydion? Akron, the enchantress. What did she say? She implied, you can be my consort. I will make you, what? King of all Prydain. Okay. And Morgan offers Taryn to join him again. He says, I'm not offering it to Elidir. He's too prideful. Weakest where he believes himself strong. Taryn, why do you offer me? Why are you choosing me? I told you, there's a lot you can achieve. Taryn, you don't know me very well then. Taryn, give me to the cauldron. Cast me in it now, even as I live. What's he saying? I will willingly go in it. For what purpose? So that it would be destroyed. Okay? But Morgant knows how it can be destroyed. Says, you sly little one, aren't you? You were bold, nonetheless, to hope to trick me, page 164. You fear me, and there are many in Prydain who do so. Okay? So, they get locked up. They get thrown in a hovel, essentially, with Fluter. And I'm going to skip a bunch. The final, no, page 168, just before chapter 20. They get thrown in there with him. And Eladir says, and so we are together again, Terran of Caradalvin. I did not expect for us to meet so soon. Terran, have no fear, son of Pinlarchy, which shall not be for long. And Eladir bows his head. Why? He's ashamed. He's also tired. He's been beat up. For that I am truly sorry. I would make up the ill I have done all of you. He bows his head while he is humbling himself to Prince of Pinlarku, Pig Boy. I'm sorry. If I could take it all back and make it better, I would. Would you have said the same if the cauldron were still in your hands? I shall speak the truth. I do not know. Maybe not. The black beast you saw is a harsh master. Its claws are sharp. Yet I did not feel them until now. Is it pride? Is it jealousy? That is, jealousy for recognition? Because he gets none, right? Nobody gives a rat's what for Eladir. I tell you this, Eladir continues, I stole the cauldron out of pride, not evil. The black beast isn't evil. I swear to you, on whatever honor remains to me, I would not have used it. I would have taken your glory for my own. I would have borne the crook into Gwydion and offered it for destruction. Believe this. Terran, I do. Now perhaps even more than you believe it yourself. Because what has Eladir just done? Oh, let's use religiously loaded language. He confesses. He offers up his contrite confession. Yep. Not evil, but I was going to steal all your glory and everything. So, Terran says, can you break from your bonds and free us? Because, if he can lift a horse, he's pretty strong. Eladir tries. He says, nope, too much of my strength is gone. Okay. Dolly shows up. Page 171. Dolly helps them get loose. Eladir rises to his feet, middle of the page. Says, I had not strength enough to break my own bonds, but I can still serve you. And he leaves the tent quickly. Terran sees Morgan fall back in astonishment, draw his sword. Morgan tells his men to slay him. We see Eladir fighting against the warriors. Page 172. Using all strength remaining to him, he throws the warrior down. Falters cried as the man's sword thrust into his side. Terran cries out, no, and Eladir jumps into the cauldron. He willingly, knowingly, understanding the consequences, jumps in. What happened just before that? He had a sword thrust through his side. Guess what? He's dying anyways.
Andy said that Morgan dealt him his death wound before that.
Okay. How important is that? It's not that he's dying all anyways. Why is it important that because he's already been dealt a death wound and he still jumps in?
He's using his last few minutes to...
His last few seconds. His death is what? It's going to count for something. Because if he just bleeds out there, big deal. Big deal for him, obviously. But for the story and for Prydain, big freaking deal. He's, the Prince of Pinlarchy. Wow, big deal. Nothing, He's going to get, a gravestone like that. Because who's going to pay for it? Okay? And it blows up. Okay? Terran goes to Eladir's side and says, page 173, the black beast is gone. Whatever the beast was, if it was pride, it's been obliterated. Why? as a proud person couldn't do what he just did. A proud person looks after who?
Himself.
Numero uno. Okay? Gwydion comes in, praises Fluter and such, and then he says to Terran, page 174. And to you too, assistant pigkeeper, the Krogan is destroyed, and with it Iran's power to add to the numbers. Cauldron-born, that is, the Cauldron-born don't all, die. They don't all fall to the ground because now that the Cauldron's in. The Cauldron-born that have already been made, they're still kicking. And there's still a lot of them. So they still have to deal with that problem. It is one of the gravest defeats Iran has ever suffered, but I know the price you paid. Terran, Eladir paid the final price. Last honor belongs to him. He has lost all else, even his steed. Really? Even his steed? What good would the steed do now when he's dead? Gwydion, or perhaps gained all. How can he die and yet gain all?
Because he died with honor.
Died with honor. Alexander has said in some interviews, a friend and I have talked about this numerous times over beers. It tells you how nerdy we are. That Alexander has said in interviews, there's a lot of quote unquote Christian imagery in here. It's never said that he's a Christian. In fact, I think he said he's not a believer. He who would save his life must lose it, Christ says. He who loses his life for my sake will gain it. What does it, matter to a man that he gain the whole world and lose his soul? Better to lose the whole world and gain your soul. Or perhaps gained all. Gained what? Jumping into the cauldron becomes Eladir's act of redemption. The slate gets wiped clean. Gwydion, his honor shall be certain. We're going to raise a barrow. We're going to ride a circle around his barrow. We're going to sing songs. He's going to get what? He's going to get a kingly burial. Islamak will bury her with him. Common practice, by the way, for the ancient Celts, for the Germanic peoples, it goes back to the Indo-Europeans again. We found graves 5, 6, 7,000 years old with chieftains, what remains of them, and horses. And every now and then, women take their wives with them. Hopefully they died a natural death, but it's probably not likely. He goes on. Smoit's dead shall also sleep in honor, and a barrow will be raised for Morgan, king of Denmark. Tears on. Time out. What? Morgan? How can there be honor for him? And Alexander writes, I think, one of the most difficult things for a 21st century audience to read and accept. It's easy to judge evil unmixed. What's he mean, unmixed?
There's no shadow of doubt they're evil.
When there's no shadow of doubt that they're evil. Right? Hitler. Pretty clear. Stalin. Hussein. Osama. Throw in your Republican president if you're a Democrat. Throw in your Democrat president if you're a Republican. Whatever. Okay? But those three that I mentioned, pretty clear. Okay? Most people, it's mixed. Easy to judge evil unmixed, but alas, in most of us, good and bad are closely woven as the threads on a loom. Greater wisdom than mine is needed for the judging. In other words, I'm not going to judge Morgan's soul. It's up to somebody with a higher pay grade. What am I going to do? I'm going to give him an honorable burial. Morgan served the sons of Dawn long and well. That is, up until the last couple of months. He was a faithful and good servant. Until the thirst for power parched his throat, he was a fearless and noble lord. In battle, he saved my life more than once. These are part of him too, and cannot be put aside or forgotten. And I'll just let that perk for a while, especially in our real modern culture where we say what? Where we have people saying what about people who died 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago. Or even not died, but somebody today who's lived a life doing something really good maybe, and then they have one major screw up. Well, what does that one major screw up do for an awful lot of people in our society today about everything that came before?
Erases it.
It erases it. It's called the cancel culture. Okay? Look at somebody like, for example, and I had an ancestor who wiped out the South. Sherman. Directly related to him. Okay? Not a proponent, not a, defender of racism, slavery, etc. But look at somebody, and his name just went out of my head. Nathan Bedford Forrest. Okay? Founded the KKK, was a great general, great in terms of military strategy for the South. But how did he die? That is, after the Civil War, and after founding the KKK and everything, beginning in, I think it was around the 1870s, maybe 1880s, until his death. What did he spend his life trying to do? Anybody know? Fighting against the KKK. He tried to undo what he did. He tried to get more rights for freed African Americans. Again, I'm not getting into the bigger, but that's an example of the kind of thing you've got to think about when you think about what Alexander is saying here. Here, it's flipped on the other shoe. Why? Smoit spent the most of his life, Morgan spent most of his life doing good stuff. He ended, big mistake. Okay? Forrest, most of his life, I think most would say, bad stuff. He ended trying to do what? Undo the bad stuff. Isn't that kind of like Eladier? Because our experience of Eladier is most of it, he's a rotten ass. And then he does something really good at the end. So I shall honor Morgan, Gwydion says, for what he used to be, and Eladier for what he became. And I think Terrence is kind of going, I don't know, I got to think about that one a while. That's kind of, because what was Morgan going to do? He was going to kill. He saved your life, but he was going to kill me. And Eilonwy, and Fluter, and Eladier, etc. And if he had the opportunity, Gwydion, Dalbin. Okay. So, let's see. Caw shows up. Gwistel's there. Caw croaks out Terran's name. Gwistel says you can keep him, etc. Page 177. So they're heading back to Caer Dallben. Terran's riding beside Gwydion. Why? At the head of the column.
It's the place he earned.
It's the place he earned. It's glory, it's honor, And he says, it's strange. I had longed to enter the world of men. What did Gwydion tell him at the beginning? It's not going to be all you think it is. But we're going to let you do the council, and we're going to let you ride along, on the plan. I had longed to enter the world of men. Now I see it filled with sorrow, with cruelty and treachery. Where does he see the cruelty? Eladier, partially. Definitely Morgan's treatment of Eladier when Eladier brings him the Black Cauldron. Treachery, both of them. With those who would destroy all around them. Not Eladier. That's Morgan. Yet enter it you must. Why? Taryn, you can't become Peter Pan. You can't go off to Neverland and never have any responsibilities. You can't go and just play cowboys and Indians and fight Hook all your life. Nope, you have to enter it. For it is a destiny laid on each of us. True, you have seen these things. But there are equal parts love and joy. Think of Adion and believe this. Equal parts of love and joy. That is, there are equal parts of love and joy with sorrow, cruelty, treachery. It's not all bad. Think of Adion. Because what characterizes Adion? Love and joy. Was Adion ever, from what we saw of him, sad, depressed? No. He always had a sense of joy about him. Taryn, Gwydion goes on. Think also of your companions. Who's he mean? Fluter, Eilonwy, Gurgi? Out of friendship for you, they would have given up all they valued. Indeed, all they possessed. Notice how Gwydion puts that. Out of friendship for you. To stop you from giving up what you treasure the most. They would have given up what they treasure the most. Tara nods. I see now the price I paid was the least of all. This little clasp, it was nothing compared to what they would have done. For the bridge was never truly mine. I wore it, but it was not part of me. I'm thankful I kept it as long as I did. At least I knew for a little while how a bard must feel and what it must be like to be a hero. It says, for just a moment, I understood what a bard must understand. And from what little we know of the bardic tradition, because everything you hear today about druids today, it's all nonsense. All of it. People who dress up in the white sheets and they go to Stonehenge on the summer solstice, they're allowed to go up to the stones, you know. It's all modern nonsense. Why do I say that? Because the Druids left nothing behind in writing. Everything was retained up here. Why? Because they thought knowledge was sacred. And if you put it in writing, the wrong people might discover it. What we know about Druids and Druid practices 2,000 years ago survives from people like Julius Caesar, who describes some Druids and other people at the same time who left some accounts of what they did. But in terms of their actual beliefs, their kinds of, things, it comes so much later. Other than the Welsh mythology, which has a lot of Druids in it. Okay? So, Taryn says, now I know how a bard must feel, because a bard, had training in plants and all that kind of stuff. Again, from Welsh mythology and such. And what it must be like to be a hero. Notice what he's not saying about himself. I'm not a hero. What did he do? He got the Black Cauldron. Define more heroic than that.
He didn't sacrifice himself to destroy the cauldron.
He didn't sacrifice himself to destroy the cauldron. But what does Gwydion say? That is why your sacrifice was all the more difficult. You chose to be a hero not through enchantment, but through your own manhood. Just by being you. And since you have chosen, for good or ill, you must take the risks of a man. You may win or you may lose. Win what? Those risks. Guess what, Taryn? That decision you had to make in the marshes, it's not the last time you're going to have to make that kind of decision. You're going to have to offer what? At other times. Everything you have. Yourself, maybe. They come to the valley of Istrad, and here Gwydion, says, now I'm going back home, you go the other way. Gwydion waves, Taryn watches. He goes back to the others. Eilonwy says, hurry along. Hinwin will be wanting her bath. I'm afraid Gurgi and I left in such a hurry I didn't take time to straighten up the scullery. It's worse than starting a journey, blah, blah, blah. They head home thinking of what? What do Eilonwy's words imply? Chores. The everyday honor. I forgot to clean up the kitchen. Shoot. Why? Because that's the first thing I'm going to have to do when I get back home. I don't know if you've ever gone on vacation before I left the house a mess. It's hell when you come back and nobody cleaned it up for you. You know, no house elves took care of it. Okay? All right, we'll stop there unless you have questions. And Castle of Lear, the next book, which focuses on Eilonwy. So we get a lot of her backstory and more of she and Karen's story.